All right, Jono Frew here. We're on episode 4 of Big Conversations in a Little Campervan, and I'm joined today by the man, Kane Brisco. Kane, can you please introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, g'day. I'm Kane Brisco. I'm a dairy farmer, 50-50 share milker in South Taranaki with my wife and 2 young kids. We've got Ali and Parker, 6 and 4, so they're just getting into the swing of things. They haven't quite figured out how to open gates yet, but we're working on it. So yeah, we're dairy farmers, and my wife's a registered nurse as well in town, so she's flat out at the moment. And about a year, or just over a year ago, we started up a boot camp group exercise here at the farm. We've slowly been building that and getting locals and a few urbanites from the metropolis of Hara to come in and do a boot camp with us twice a week. And I guess we'll branch that out into the social media world and just sort of taking it as it comes, really, and trying to balance that with farming and family life has been tricky, to say the least. But it's, I guess, part of trying to figure out what we're passionate, well, not figure out what we're passionate about. We know what we're passionate about, but trying to balance everything we want in life, I guess, is the tricky one. And that's everyone plays that game when you have a family. So yeah, that's what we do and what we're about. And, yeah, it's great to be here having a chat, actually. It's pretty cool.
So you're a professional juggler?
Yeah, pretty much, mate. Yeah, I'm not that good at it. Not that good at it, but we try.
How long have you been farming for, Kane?
I left school when I was 17 and I'm 32 now, so we're about 15 years, give or take a little bit. Started out dry stock, actually. I got 2 older brothers that are both share milking, and one's in an equity partnership, so they are quite a bit older than me, so I was shipped out to them school holidays as a relief milker, and had on my mum's side they had a Eshire stud as well, family farm. So yeah, sort of grew up around dairy, but went dry stock, mainly heifer grazing, a bit of that sort of carry on for about 5 years straight out of school, and that was awesome. I bloody just really learnt a lot about just farming, I guess, stockmanship and good habits, and yeah, awesome place to work. Had 1,000 acres there I looked after, and thoroughly enjoyed that. And then the farm was sold and converted to dairy, so I scooted out overseas for a little bit and did some cropping and stuff over there, and caused a bit of havoc, and then came back home and went straight into dairy managing, basically, and 3 years later I owned my own herd. So we've been dairy farming for 10, basically, and the property we're on now, this is our 7th season, so been here a little while. It's taken us a few years to sort of get this place sorted and doing what we wanted it to do. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just continuing to evolve and yeah, just finding our balance, I guess, with running a dairy farm and family and all that, and trying to fit it all in and find that sweet spot that everyone's fucking looking for.
And I think the saying comes to mind, and it used to get given. The saying was originally given to me by Tim Chamberlain, who I used to work for, and he used to always say it to me, and it's so true. He says, "Jono, we're all just trying to work it out," and he always said it just like that.
Yeah. Yeah. If anyone says they've worked it out, they're lying.
Exactly. Yeah. I'm instantly dubious about people that claim that they're experts in any field, because there really is no such thing.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you've stopped learning if you're at that stage, aren't you? So there's always something more to learn. And I think when you start off on any new, I guess, interest and learning about it, you think after a few months you've learned it all, but you haven't even scratched the surface, and then you learn a bit more and you think, oh shit, I know nothing. It's one of those things. Yeah, it's a strange old thing. That's what I noticed, actually, when I started studying for fitness a little bit more, was I thought I knew a lot, going through playing rugby and boxing and that, and then getting into running. I thought I knew quite a bit, but when you actually delve into it, there's a whole nother world there that we've only just scratched the surface, really, and we're still finding out a lot of stuff about the human body as well, and farming,
Exactly.
for that matter. Yeah,
and like,
yeah. So
I'm sure you're aware, when you sort of start to entertain the thoughts of, I know what I'm doing, and even getting the credit or the certification that says you know what you're doing, it sort of limits your learning, because someone says something and already you're listening for whether it suits what you know about the subject or not, and instantly you write it off depending on whether you believe it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. You'd see a lot of that being into the old regenerative scene. There's a lot of unknowns, even with what we've been doing in farming for the last bloody 50 years, isn't it? It's all,
exactly.
There's a lot we don't know. There's a lot.
And the human body, man, holy moly.
Oh, so yeah, it's unreal what it can do, and how it processes a lot of things. She's a pretty. I don't think. I certainly can't comprehend some of the things it does and how it develops. It's beyond my capacity to understand how it does what it does. It's pretty incredible, especially when you get into the deep levels of stuff. It's pretty unreal.
The mind is an amazing thing, and on the flip side of that, the physical side of things. So you've been interested in, obviously, physical performance. I see up the background there a few ribbons and things. Tell me about your history and your sporting and around fitness, and what had you go ahead and start the Farm Fit campaign.
Basically, I played rugby since the age I was 5, and I was just your dead set average, barely average player right through. I never made any rec teams. I was never in the going through high school. I think I played bloody like 5th, 15. I was well and truly pretty average, but I always stuck at it and enjoyed it. And I was always really small. I was always way smaller than everyone. But when I left school and moved farming, the rugby club my brother played for, he sort of dragged me along and made me play, and I didn't really want to play anymore because I was so much smaller than everyone. But they actually did a boxing tournament as a fundraiser, and so I stuck my hand in for that because I'd always been interested in it. Not that I was much of a scrapper anyway, but so we did that, and I just fell in love with it, and absolutely took it, really seriously. And out of all the people that fought, I was the only one that continued on with it. And the boxing scene in New Zealand was pretty lackluster back then. I guess there just wasn't many people doing it. I had to drive basically an hour to a gym to train. But yeah, just fell in love with the sport, and from that I noticed a massive improvement in my rugby. All of a sudden, I think about a year after I took up boxing, I was playing senior A rugby in Taranaki, which was, and I think at that stage I only weighed like 72 kilos or something. And I was just fit, and it just gave me a whole bunch of confidence that I'd never had before. I no longer feared anybody. I wasn't intimidated or scared of anyone or anything for that matter. Once you've been in a ring by yourself, I think a lot of that just melts away. It's one of those things in life. It's a real confidence builder if you can actually do it, and a real achievement. So that just changed my whole outlook basically on a lot of things in life, whether it was farming or sport. And that's when I really started to get interested in my body and how to look after it. And, instead of eating, shit food and lots of beer and that, and still trying to train, I actually, managed to start eating a bit healthier and cut the beers back a bit, and just tried pushing my body to see what it could really do. And yeah, my rugby flourished. I think I made a year later, I think I made the Taranaki under-20s rep team, which was well beyond what I thought I'd ever do. I didn't even think I'd ever play senior rugby. So, and that, if I hadn't picked up the boxing gloves, I never would have done that. So I attribute a lot of good things in my life to that. A lot of discipline and the stickability through the tough stuff. That's all just a transfer. So that was really what I wanted to do when I first took up boxing. I want to open up a boxing gym. That was the that was a big goal of mine alongside farming. I just wanted to pass that experience on to others that may need it. And there's a lot of people out there, particularly young guys with a lot of testosterone and energy, that don't have anything to channel it into. Rugby may not suit them, but they need that physical outlet. Young guys need to get rid of their testosterone, in a positive manner rather than a negative, which is an issue for some. So if I could help do that, it would be pretty cool. Pay it forward, I guess, in a way. And that's where I guess the first idea of ever opening a gym was, way back when I was sort of 18, 19. And then when we came share milking here, the payout dropped on us. So we'd spent a shitload of money on a pretty average herd. It was a bit like the cheapest herd we could find at that stage. Ended up being pretty average. We had a new job, and then the payout dropped. So we were highly extended in terms of money owing, and sort of trapped, I guess, into this share milking business, and we just had to get through it. And then, we sort of thought, well, everyone was down. There wasn't a farmer in the country, I think, that was bloody happy or finding it easy. So we sort of started looking a bit at ways then of what can I do to, help myself out and those around me. And that's when we first thought of maybe opening the idea really was to clean out one of the sheds and start a boxing gym or some sort of exercise gym, because not everyone's into boxing. But then we soon realised I've got zero money to buy any sort of gear. We're fairly new in the district. Just wasn't really confident in my ability, I guess. I've always had that little self-doubt in the back of the head that always held me back a little bit. And the same with boxing, rugby. Believe in myself, but only to a certain extent. And I listened to that bloody stupid voice too much. So we just sort of put it on the back burner. We set up like a community Facebook page to do a few events. We had a tennis tournament and that sort of thing to sort of bring the community together, because it is a big community. So we had a couple of cool events like that. And then, about 18 months ago or so, we, probably 2 or 3 years ago, actually, we got into trail running, me and the wife, as something we could do together. I retired from rugby after a couple of injuries, and the kids came along. So I retired from rugby and sort of still had this need to do something physical. So we both got into running. And that was another new learning curve, because I'd never run more than 10K in my life. So we started doing sort of half marathon type stuff and that sort of thing. And we got in contact with a lady by the name of Lisa Tamari, who was one of the old school ultra marathon runners, one of the originals, I guess. And she's from Taranaki. And she's now an online running coach. And we the wife got a program done by her, and we just carried on running, and we sort of followed her quite closely and her perspective on life and her lessons through mental toughness and all that sort of thing. And we found out through a podcast, I think it was, the night before we were going to do the Waitomo trail run, I think it was. We listened to a podcast, and she actually talked to another lady, and they both went through their struggles to have children, which we didn't know at all. We just sort of presumed she didn't want kids, but I think she must have been 48 or 47 at this stage, but just couldn't have kids. And Nicole, my wife, has always been interested in being a surrogate. So we actually got in touch with her and sort of said, we could probably do that for you, be a surrogate mum. And so that was a few crazy conversations, and we actually went ahead with that. So the wife was pregnant. Unfortunately, we lost the baby, I think, at 24 weeks last year, which was a whole another process that none of us were were expecting, and extremely difficult, and still is. But also taught us a lot about love and what humans are capable of for each other. That empathy and giving. I saw my wife in a whole new light. Just her nature was just, and her character was just unbelievable through that. And, it was something to behold how strong she was, and just her willingness to actually do it in the first place. Have a child for someone else. That was half hers as well. So it was a massive experience. But through that connection with Lisa, she's a go-getter. She doesn't. Nothing stops her, sort of thing. She just goes ahead and does it. And through that, through that process, we sort of talked about the boot camp thing and the fitness thing, and she just said, "What's holding you back? Just ask the question of the people around you. Would you be interested in it? Have a go." And the only thing they can say is no. And then if they say no, you just carry on your own journey. But she was really the catalyst, I think, of shutting up the voice in the back of my head that said you couldn't do it, or no one would want to do it. So we just, basically put a question out on the old local Facebook page, and before you knew it, there were 10 or 12 people turning up for the bloody thing. So I had to go out and get a bunch of gear and get my shit sorted, really, and start taking it seriously. But that was the whole catalyst for starting that, and it's been a hell of a journey, that's for sure. But pretty gutted we can't be doing it right now, but we're just sort of taking that time to spend a bit more time with the kids and the family, and I guess chill a little bit on the drive of life, I guess, and just sit back and enjoy it a little bit, as people hopefully are when they're locked down, is taking a step back and having a breather, I guess, is what we're trying to do at the moment. But that's the journey of how we got here, I guess.
Well, bro, firstly, I don't want to step over it. You and Lisa, what was your wife's name?
Nicole.
Lisa was the trainer. You guys, like, that is massive, the surrogate parent thing, like, holy moly, I just want to acknowledge you for that. Like, that shows, like, wow, that is, if only people could be that supportive and giving, like, what would the world look like? It's So I just wanted to acknowledge you guys for that.
Mate. Yeah, like, the wife's, I always tease the wife, she's got the heart of an African elephant fucking stuck in a midget's body, it's just, it's bloody ridiculous. It's to a fault almost at times, but she's just one of those people that she's just her heart's too big for her, just about. But it was also I think a lot of people lack probably the courage or the strength to do something like that, because you do think, oh, what do other people think about that? You have all these things going through your mind, or what's a child gonna think that's it was half my wife's baby, I guess, her genetics. So it wasn't mine as such, but you have all these doubts and thoughts, and I think people just lack the courage, or the strength to do what they really feel, deep down, as a giving something for nothing. It's a foreign concept for a lot of people, which is unfortunate. But what would the world look like if that was a normal, I guess, or a more normal?
What was it like before? I want to go back to a discussion prior to that conversation, but for yourself as husband, what's that like? Like, you said, a whole new light. I can only, like, tell me more about what that was like to watch your wife, offer that to someone else and then go through that experience. That must have been really something for you.
Oh, I was incredibly proud of her. It's hard to put into words, really. I wasn't surprised that she wanted to do it, because that's just her nature, I think. But just proud that she, wanted to do it, and her conviction about doing it was really strong. She was doing it for the right reasons, and yes, immensely proud. I did struggle with it at the start. I'm sort of a somewhat cavemanish, I guess, and that territorial thing of, my wife getting pregnant to another man, sort of thing. I was that took quite a bit to get over and let go of, quite a lot, but you know, it was just having that, you know, telling yourself, have you got the strength to do that? You know, are you strong enough? Do you have the courage? Do you have the trust and all that sort of thing? And you know, you just sort of got to answer that call, and I knew how much purpose it gave her. So it was incredible to see her, you know, proud of what she was doing as well, and me be proud of that. And then yeah, it was, yeah, everyone, like, there was so much love between all of us, you know, doing it, which was incredible. And then you know, when we lost Joe, so much love as well at the other end, you know. That was a horrible but incredible experience all rolled into one.
Yeah, man.
You know, just a whole heap of love and togetherness, and you know, you never felt so attached probably to my wife. But you know, to see her character through that was incredible too, because she was the strongest by through of anyone, you know, through it all. You know, she just, mothers, hey, they're pretty incredible mums. You know, I think us guys pale in comparison in pretty much all aspects of strength compared to what they can do and what they're willing to do and sacrifice for their kids and for their family, just family in general, really. They're just lovers, aren't they?
Oh, dude, yeah, they don't have all that stuff in the way, you know, like us men. We like to do that. You know, you talked about the caveman thing, and I can tell you, I've been there, man. You know, I used to be this guy, and this sort of morphs perfectly into the discussion I wanted to touch on, which was, you know, the fear which stops you. You know, like back in the day, you said you were small, and I'm sitting here listening to your story, man, and I was the same. So I was the tiny kid. I was the late bloomer at school. You know, I was just this little boy. You know, I was still talking like this when I left school.
Yeah.
And then
I didn't start shaving until I was 19, I think.
Dude, yeah. So I can relate. And then as a result of that feeling a bit like I was a bit less than the others, I sort of went into I guess my pubescent years and my early adult years with a bit of like there was anger there, but when I looked behind the anger, it was all because I was scared, and I would keep people out here like at arm's length emotionally in order to keep myself safe. And also I was the scrapper, and it was all just to avoid domination from anyone else because I was scared. And when I got down to it, and this took years, like it really took my wife and kids leaving for me to really look at my life, and it took a long time. And when I look back, it was all just because deep down, all I wanted to express was my love for people. But in my caveman, like you mentioned it perfectly just then, you know, once you got over your caveman thing, you were able to express love and massive pride and massive love. When you've got all this stuff in the way, and it's all down to being just a bit scared of failure,
That is really, mate.
Scared of not being good enough, scared of what are people going to think of me. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's it's a massive problem for men, but it's also a massive problem for some women too, particularly in relationships. You know, I think we've all been in a relationship with a woman that doesn't let their guard down. You know, everyone's guilty of that in different manners. I think, you know, men, it's just being in that it's more of that life setting, really, isn't it? You know, you see it in farmers. They don't talk about their problems because they don't want to be seen as weak. And I'm like that too. I still have that to a point. It's just being brave enough to you know, make that one phone call or jump on a video or something. It's stupid, really, that it lets us has this control over us, but we haven't quite evolved out of it yet, have we? But you know, that caveman's important in some circumstances, but we just haven't figured out how to switch them off all the time at the right time. You know, it's something I'm still battle with. And but yeah, I was exactly the same. You know, I was the small guy, so I had a complex about that, I guess, which is
part of the reason that drove me towards boxing. I wanted to be able to look after myself, and I didn't want to be intimidated anymore. So I learned how to fight. So I wasn't. So I know that I can look after myself, and that's still a caveman bloody thing too, because it's who needs to, you know. But you know, it has come in handy a couple of times. But you know, it made a difference to my outlook on life, and that was I made sure it was a positive impact, not a negative, and a positive outlet for anger and you know, whatever was going on from the past and that shit in my head. It gave me a way to express. And I think if you have an honest conversation with any fighter, they'll tell you that. You know, a lot of them have had a hard upbringing or don't know how to express themselves, and it's like any sort of art form, I guess. They choose a physical art form rather than a musical or you know, something like that. So it's all an outlet to express, and I think the key thing is to keep growing from them. So I don't box anymore, and I haven't for a while. But I guess the social media thing was another avenue for me to challenge myself, to express myself in another way, which has been still fucking daunting. Hasn't gotten that much easier, but it was a challenge to myself to put the old mug out there, and that's what I think as men we've got to do, is just have those little challenges to develop as a person rather than stay a caveman. You know, that's how evolution sort of happens, I think. You know, we all make these little marks in our DNA where we improved. So to be a better human should be high on the list, if you ask me.
Yeah, man, for sure. And regardless of what your art form is or your discipline, you know, if that can have you overcome a bit of fear, and of course the discipline thing's good in itself as well, that structure, that routine. But the main thing is the expression, man. Like a lot of people, you know, can't fathom being self-expressed, and it's sort of sad in a way. But it's sad full stop, because all of a sudden we've got this view of the way, and we'll stick to males here, but the way that men should be. And then so as a result, you know, you can go to group gatherings, and I have this all the time with farmers. It's like everyone's that same, and I look at my old man, and he's just perfectly, you know, correlated to this group of people. You know, well, what's the weather doing up your way, mate? Oh, you know, good. You know, it's all just that sort of same linear. And I'll go and see the old man now, and I'll say to him, you know, how's I'd like to see you dating, and you know, he can't fathom that thought, you know, and and he'll throw humor into the equation to avoid having that conversation with me. So when I say to him, you know, I'll say, shit, man, you know, you're sort of 53 years old now, you know, do you think you'll ever get on the dating bandwagon? And you'll see his face change. And I never used to have these conversations, because that to me is a new form of expression. Because before, me and him were just like, you know, barely bloody exchange eye contact. You know, it was this relationship where, you know, everything was based on assumption. I certainly didn't let him know how much I loved him. That was something that was far too scary for me. And then a few years ago, I just started saying to him, look, I really appreciate, you know, who you've been for me. This isn't my biological father. This is my stepfather. And he's always been there for me. And I started to say to him, like, you know, I really do appreciate everything you've done for us kids. You didn't have to. And I'll say, look, I love you. And you could see his face like a bit weird, you know. But once I got over it, I was like, well, at least for me, if I die tomorrow, he knows exactly how I feel. And then having these conversations about like dating, and you'll be like, oh, you know, the humor thing, oh, there's nothing wrong with the local hooker. And I'm just like, he's taking the piss, you know, but it's all just to avoid having that, you know, somewhat a real conversation. So I love what you're doing, man.
We're far too good at that humour to bypass the real conversation, aren't we? And it's something I probably haven't actually thought about before now, but shit, I do it too, you know. You do anything to distract someone from asking the right bloody questions, don't you? But you know, you sort of just get brought up with it, and it becomes one of those ingrained bloody things that's, in the long run, it's, you know, it's nice to have a bit of banter with your mates and all that, but having those real conversations are more important. And you know, fuck it, if I can do it, anyone can bloody do it, because I'm the worst out of everyone. So it's yeah, it is. It's getting over that fear and being honest with yourself and those around you. It's hard to get rid of those ingrained habits, isn't it?
Well, it is,
It's
man. But
ingrained
then
in our
also,
own
like,
whole society.
it's like one step at a time. It's like one action. Like for you, you know, you were worried about, well, you had a fear around the social media thing and putting your name out there. But dude, once you dipped your toe in and realized, oh, actually you don't die from this stuff, and then realizing, like, could you ever have expected the, because I see you out there all the time, you know, we're doing the press ups thing at the moment, that thing's gone viral, like you seem to be everywhere, you know, did you ever expect that would happen?
Nah, not
Exactly.
at all, mate. I was no, I didn't want it to either, to be fair, because now I've got more people seeing my bloody mug. So you gotta be careful what you wish for. Yeah, but no, I didn't at all. I thought, mate, if I can make a difference to 100 people, that would be pretty cool. And when I got to like 100 followers, I was like, fuck, that's pretty awesome. So yeah, no, I never expected to be out there as much, you know, being shared by like the New Zealand Farmers page and that sort of things. Even though I put myself out there and tagged them in it, I didn't expect things like that to sort of happen. But we've had some pretty cool stuff come from it too. So it's I've always sort of thought, if opportunity knocks on the door, you should always answer the bloody door. But yeah, being more open about that and actually, I guess, in a way, creating our own opportunities, I guess, is something I've never really done before. I've always looked at opportunities as they come along, but being more open, it's yes, sort of creating your own, but just being open to them coming more, in a way, and they do come, having that energy you put out into the world come back. You know, I'm a fairly big believer in the energy you put out, you get back. So that's probably been a change over the last 10 years, is having that, I guess, the energy that, you know, of helping others and being open to helping others, and rather than just keeping all my knowledge and stuff to myself. I think that's a big thing that a lot of us do. You know, there's some great people out there with a ton of knowledge, whether it's farming or fitness and that sort of thing, but they just whether they don't want to share it or don't want to be, don't have the courage to share it, or whatever it is, or just haven't even thought about it. You know, when you actually do share it, you get a whole lot of stuff back as well, and you keep learning yourself. So it's been a hell of an experience, and not something I ever thought would happen. But yeah, like I said, it's opportunities coming back at us now to, you know, do these things, talk to interesting people and get their knowledge and take on life. And it's all just a growing, learning process. So it's been pretty cool, pretty unreal though. But yeah, we're out there far too much for all. But yeah,
this is cool. It, man. It's expression, dude. And people, as much as we like to think we can, we actually can't read minds.
Yeah.
You know, like people get around, like they get into situations where, you know, some support could really help, but rather than ask for it, they get around cross, bitter, or whatever it may look like. But it's all these things like hints that they're dropping without actually having a conversation. And so people getting around or pissed off why others can't pick up on their little tips or their little hints, sorry. But what's missing is that expression of, you know, whether it be good or bad, like, or like something around like a new opportunity or an innovation is like, you know, we'll stick to the not so good context for now, but it's like, you know, I'm really struggling with something, you know, and reaching out to someone like yourself, or, you know, I'm always available to anyone that wants to have a chat. But once you get that out there in the world, you soon realize that there's a lot of people that actually want to help, and just in expressing it, it wasn't actually that big a deal. It's the holding on to it that has the weight.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, you know, it's like that weight on your shoulders, isn't it? And once someone else knows about it and understands it, you know, it makes a hell of a difference. You know, that weight doesn't seem anywhere near as heavy, and that can be enough to get you through just on its own. But it's typical farmers, like I've been over the last couple of years, I guess, people around that, you know, perhaps you think, oh, you know, shit, I wonder if they're struggling, you know, and you ask them and they're, you know, she's all right, she's all good. But you know, it's that thing too. As a man, you don't want to interfere with them or you know, or catch them, not catch them out. But you know, you don't want to. You think there's this masculinity thing about, you know, really asking them the hard questions or probing to try and, you know, get them to spill their guts or something. It's a hard balance to whether they just need that little bit of courage for 30 seconds, then that's all it takes to say, oh, actually, shit, you know, things are shit, you know, and it doesn't have to be a deep and meaningful conversation about life, but just sharing that can be a huge step in getting out of that hole, you know, and just want to encourage others around there. Just, you know, 30 seconds of courage can mean a lot to the rest of your life, you know.
Yeah.
And that's all it takes. You know,
it's like making out with the chick for the first time.
Yeah. Exactly, mate. You just got to take that leap of faith for a second, don't you? And you know, what's the worst that can happen? You know,
yeah.
I can't think of any farmers around that would, if you said you were struggling, would you know, chop your legs off or anything. You like, I think there's enough awareness around it now that, you know, they'd be understanding about it, or take a step to get someone that knows something about what they're doing to help you out, or you know, something like that. It's just that whole stigma around it, isn't it? It's still there, but it is getting better.
Yeah, no, thanks to guys like yourself, man. And look, really, when you get down to it, all everyone ever wants, and I don't care who you are, but all everyone ever wants is to be heard. And once you can give someone the space or the opportunity just to be heard, and even like you said, and this is real for a lot of people, you know, you're concerned about someone, you can see possibly they're not dealing with something, or they're dealing with something and not, you know, not being able to do it powerfully or well, and you're worried, but you don't want to assume something, you know, like assumptions can be a real killer. But what you can do is you can just come in and express, well, hey, look, man, you know, what I'm seeing, and I don't know this to be the truth, but what I'm seeing is you know, this in your behavior, and I just want to know, man, I'm not assuming that you're having trouble with anything, but look, are you having trouble with anything? Is there something that I can help you with? And just like that, you can, you know, potentially save someone's life.
Yeah, and I think that comes back to us, you know, asking if everyone, you know, your mates around or whoever you think might be struggling, if they're all right, but showing them that, you know, you're human too. I think I'd hate to think that people think that my life's perfect or I'm perfect on social media as well, because I'm a long way from it. You know, things are never perfect. We're all fucking ducks in a pond paddling. You know, it's showing our faults as well. I think is a big thing, particularly on social media. Is probably something I haven't done enough of or done much of, is you know, showing that vulnerability or those faults, or you know, there's just a whole thing right through social media of the highlight reel, you know. And we all want to put off that vibe, but it's a dangerous one too, you know. It's not doing a great thing for the future generations coming through or those around us, you know, not only showing the 2 minutes of the day that you're doing something epic, rather than the 20 hours you're doing something shit, you know. So it's I guess, trying to balance that on social media is how we can show our faults a bit more, so show our vulnerability, so that those around us can actually feel comfort talking to us. And that was something I, you know, Mike King's big message when I caught up with him in Hawera with the Gumboot Friday trek, was we as males, we just need to show that vulnerability to our mates and those around us, and they'll feel safe opening up. You know, women are so much better at it than we are. You know, they, with their girlfriends and that, they show that pretty naturally, it seems. But for us, it's fucking just seems like the end of the world if we did that. But it's just something we need to do to make every other male around us feel comfortable, isn't it? You know, and farmers are probably going to be the hardest ones to shift into that, unfortunately. But that's probably what needs to happen. That's the next step. You know, we've got an awareness around it. So it's, you know, what do we do next? Is you can't just expect everyone to reach out. I'm certainly not one of those people. I guess I'm lucky in the fact that I've collected a few tools over the years through certain situations that I know I can be proactive with my mental health.
Yeah.
And that's a real key for me. So I know that if I'm not proactive, I get into a shithole just like anyone else. But I'm not one of those guys that reaches out. But if someone showed vulnerability to me, and I've got a couple of mates that have, and you know, I feel then comfortable offloading on them, and it's all good, you know, and that's why, you know, wives are really good for that, because you know, they know the real story. You can't hide that much from them.
They can see through that. Yeah.
They can see through, you know, they've got that instinct that shit's not right. So, but even then, you know, reaching out to your partner's not always easy as well for a lot of men. So it's just finding that two-way street and getting that awareness out there that a lot of guys don't reach out, and they're the ones that end it, you know. So it's, as much as it's important for us to ask how they're doing, it's more important that we create that society that allows that comfortable feeling, you know, that masculinity wall to drop for what's needed to be said, and just making it a part of life, you know. There's no there shouldn't be a stigma around it really, but there still is, and it's going to take a couple of generations probably to get rid of it, isn't it?
Well, look, man, it's all language, right? So even these discussions now, like if someone's watching this right now and we're discussing this thing, like, because it is out there and it is real, like, trust me, like, going back to, like, vulnerability is key, man. Going back to the years I spent in intensive contracting and agricultural spraying and fertilizer applications and agronomy, and even in the years of dairy farming, but not so much, you know, you can probably understand. But I used to get so caught up in the trying to be the best, you know, and the contracting space was like, so, you know, I was doing 110-hour weeks for 10 months of the year, and I had children through that time, and my brain was so active at trying to be better and better and better and more, to the point where I'd come home and I wasn't even present to my family, but I wouldn't talk about it because I didn't even know it was there. And then I'd come to, I wouldn't be able to sleep. I used to smoke, like, seriously, man, I used to smoke so much weed at night just to get myself to sleep. And I'd hide that, you know, I'd hide it from anyone around me, because I was this professional, you know, I couldn't be seen to be doing that. And so in the hiding of it, I was resigned, like I was doing something wrong and I was making myself wrong, therefore enforcing this whole thing that I need to be secretive, need to be hiding. And then I'd sneak out to the garage at night once my wife and kids were in bed and smoke bongs till I was tired enough to go to sleep. And then when I realized that all this lacking in vulnerability was what actually caused the anxiety, and there were times where I was on the floor in a heap and my wife was like really concerned, and I wasn't even willing to admit even at that point that I needed help. I remember being, and this was just before my wife left, and this was all hidden, man. I hid this. Like, no one knew that this was going on. The moment I walk out the door, you know, it was all, you know, it was all, but dude, I found myself down at the doctor's, and that was my first step, was like, okay, I know that, you know, my heart rate monitor on my watch is telling me, you know, on average, I'm over 100 beats per minute. Like, that's not good.
That's not
and then what I had was, I had a prescription. The first time I'd ever been told, like, I had some form of depression, and I had a prescription, and I thought to myself, at this point in my life, I was sort of in this symptom treatment phase of my life. Like, on the farm, you had a problem, you treated the symptom. And then here I was as a patient being told I had this anxiety or something. They gave me a prescription to go get some pills. I walked across the street in Leaston to get my prescription. They said, it's going to be 10 minutes. Do you want to wait? I said, I'm going to go home and hang a load of washing out, and then I'm going to come back. And as I was hanging the washing out at home, this fucking massive, excuse my language, thing came in, and it just made me realize, like, holy moly, the cause of all this anxiety was right back to just me avoiding being vulnerable and avoiding taking responsibility for being expressive in my life. And so then
Yeah.
I started to really work on myself. I started to develop a life that works for me. I started telling people that I care about them. All of a sudden, my heart rate dropped 15 beats per minute on average within like 3 months. I literally felt all this weight disappear. And you talk about vulnerability, man. So now I've got no problem sharing that, because that's been my life. You know, that was a big part of my life.
Yeah.
And if sharing about it can impact someone out there, then it's worth sharing, right?
Yeah.
The month before last, I did a presentation at Lincoln University with I think about 250 farmers, where I spoke about that. And that wasn't planned. Like I spoke about how I used to rely on marijuana to sleep at night. And 3 years ago, I would have been like, don't ever share that. Like, that's something that, you know. But I didn't die. And in fact, I've had lots of feedback saying that people were really moved by what I had to say. So there really is nothing to fear other than this image that we like to uphold of ourselves. But it's this image that's actually killing people.
Absolutely, mate. And you know, hearing that, you're probably further down the road than I am, because I still have that. I guess I'm still on that process of owning up to some of my shit, you know. And I can totally relate, because, you know, a few years ago I just wanted to be the best dairy farmer in New Zealand, you know. Particularly when I first started dairy farming, I was just so driven. You know, before I had kids, I was just, every waking moment was I was learning. I was either out on the farm farming or farming from my desk or learning how to be better. I was just like, I want to be the best dairy farmer in New Zealand. And I've had a massive mind shift, and still shifting. I guess it's a slow process for me, but you know, when I had kids, I still kept doing that. And probably a couple of years ago, well, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I started, probably when the payout dropped, actually, I was like, fuck it, I'm not making any money. I'm losing money. Every hour I go outside, I'm negative $10 an hour, basically. So then I decided, if I'm going to keep farming, I've got to learn to enjoy it, you know, and stop. And that was sort of a big process shift of getting out of that, you know, just that non-stop farming thing, and actually being brave enough to say, well, actually, I don't, you know, being the best dairy farmer in New Zealand doesn't actually mean that much. Being a good dad's more important. So still going through that process, I guess, of shifting that. And, you know, there's still things I've got to, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? Go back in my life and own up to it, and I guess be more open and vulnerable to those around me, because it's one of those things that I've only really, in the last couple of years, realised how important that is for me to be a better dad or a better husband. You know, it's still a process I've got to keep developing, is improving on that, and being more open with my wife and those around me about I guess thoughts, for lack of a better word, how I've thought about myself, how I've thought about others, and how I've treated them. And then it's a big process, but it is like you say, a weight off. You know, just a few simple words can really pull the shoulders back and free you up. And that's what I'm finding. This sort of social media side of things has sort of made me accountable in a way too. To free me up more, to be more me, and to be better in those aspects. So that's how I've sort of tried to treat social media, as a way to be accountable and to be vulnerable to another group of people, you know, a wider group of people that if they judge me, I can just click the old block, fuck off, you know. So that, in a way, that sort of takes away some of that fear, because, you know, someone across the other side of the country, if they don't like what I'm saying, well, they just fuck off, you know. It's no drama. Whereas you have that fear around your family or your mates, and that you don't want to. It's a little bit harder to be that vulnerable, you know, because you think that they'll see you in a different light and they won't be your mate anymore or something. But you know, it's further from the truth, really. And if they don't want to be your mate, then they shouldn't be anyway. You know, you're better than that, and understanding that that what's really important is in here rather than the outside facade, I guess. So yeah, it's a hell of a journey. It's not easy for a fellow to go through. So I've got a heap of respect for you, you know, going through that on your own and just making that discovery, because it's unfortunately I don't think there's that many that make it. You know, which is the sad thing, man.
Sadly for most, for most people it requires like a stop point, or like a moment of grief or hardship.
Yeah.
And that was the case for me. But in talking about it with others like yourself, you can save people the need to come up against something as drastic as, you know, losing a loved one or having a big shift in your life. And so just 100%. Conversations.
That's what you see in a lot of people, is they have that traumatic event, and you know, it takes that horrible shit to actually open your eyes up in a way, or change your mindset and how you think about life and think about yourself. And I guess to a point last year, losing Joe was a part of that, but I think I'd already started that process anyway. But it was certainly a push down the road. You know, that life's so precious and important. Why wouldn't you be yourself? You know, why? What's you know, what's the negatives in stopping yourself and being vulnerable, or showing the true image of yourself far outweigh any negatives that you get from you know, being yourself and talking openly and using those words that you're not brought up with, and that sort of thing. So it's, it is a shame that it takes a lot of us to get that traumatic event. But yeah, like you say, if we can, the odd person might pick up, and I've had quite a few messages, I guess, of people that have, you know, seen my stuff, or those, you know, like yourself, and they get that light bulb moment, I guess. And so that's incredible to see, because they can already start that process without having the trauma. So that's incredible, and that's probably the reason why I'm doing it, is, you know, not everyone has to go through that to get the same result. So
exactly,
it's a pretty cool feeling being able to share that. Yeah, absolutely.
And look, you talk about you know, what are your friends going to think? So for me, being you know, I used to be the tough guy, and then going through this transition of being a lot more open, I was worried that my friends would all disappear. And what I've found is, no, they don't disappear. And the way I thought that maybe I might be portrayed as like the softie, which I am deep down, but I can still go and, you know, shoot a deer. I can still go shoot a deer. You know, I'm still out there riding my bike every day. You know, like there's nothing soft about who I am, although I give all the love in the world, and I'm allowing myself to feel it as well for the first time in a long time. It doesn't make you a less of a man. Like, you know, I'm still a man, you know.
Yeah, and that's I don't know what we think in our the old caveman brain. It's like we're going to turn into a metrosexual overnight just because we've told someone we love them, or said we're struggling. You know, it's a strange concept, but I'd love to know where in our brain that bloody thing occurs, because it's such a strange, but so deeply ingrained in us, isn't it? It's bloody weird that we can have this. It's so weird. I still struggle with the concept of why I think the way I do sometimes too, you know, because I do think that, oh fuck, I can't go and shoot a deer now, bloody put my mug out everywhere, and, you know, can't say these things and that. But, you know, I'm still the same bloody person. I'm just more open about, you know, what the thought processes are, you know. It's you know, if like I said, the strongest thing you can do is be vulnerable, or the strongest thing you can do, the real strength is doing the things that are hardest to you. And for most of us, that's bloody talking, especially rural males, is, you know, being vulnerable. That's the hardest thing, and it's a lot of what we can't do. It just, we don't have that strength to do it yet. You know, we haven't found that thing. And I see it even with, you know, got young fellas in high school and that, you know, they all want to go and have the old fisticuffs and you know, they don't have the strength to walk away. You know,
Yeah.
It's fucking hard to walk away from a fight. Like
I know.
it's bloody hard because you're hardwired to not. You know,
That's why
so
I had
that's the
missing
strongest
teeth.
thing they can do. Yeah. You just lost too much.
I was 17. I remember I was 17 years old, and this guy, I used to go around parties introducing myself, and we used to do this thing, you know, shake hands and over the back, you know, tap on the back.
Yeah.
And this guy was like, I'm not fucking gay. What are you doing? And this guy was like, you know, and me being I was the tough guy, you know, and this guy's like blonde, he had tattoos, blue eyes.
Yeah.
Nick was his name. Nick will remember this. So I was like, right, come on, let's go outside. And so I led him outside, and to that point, I learned you don't walk out in front. So what I didn't know was that this guy was a Golden Glove boxer, and and so out we go. You know, my pride. I couldn't be. This guy's like, what, thinks I'm gay for giving him a pat on the back? Right, let's go.
Yeah.
And so outside, turned around, and it was just left, right, and I was just like, and I was. So I've still got the black tooth in the front of my mouth to prove that the pride really doesn't pay. And this guy's now a cage fighter. Like, seriously, he's an insane dude. So it pays not to let your pride get in the way too much.
Yeah, you got to be careful picking your fights. That's for sure, mate. You just don't know with some people, eh? You just don't bloody know. A lot of people wouldn't pick me for a boxer either, and they found out the hard way too. So. Guys are silly, mate. We do some stupid shit like
we do. We do.
Yeah.
So what's next, Kane? Firstly, before I want to hear before we finish up what you've got next. But you spoke before about, you know, you got 100 followers. How many followers you got now?
We've just got over 2,000 on Instagram, and I think about 1,400-ish on Facebook. So
Jesus, man.
Way more than I ever thought. Yeah, like it's funny. Probably this time last year, I reckon I would have had like 150 or so on Instagram and didn't even have a Facebook page. So it's I thought when we did the boot camp and decided to put it out on social media, I thought, man, if we could get 500, sort of mainly farmers seeing what we're doing and inspire them to take their health seriously and be proactive about things, and maybe even start in their own community. I was like, man, that would be incredible. And then we battled away, I think, to 300 over quite some time. And all of a sudden it picked up pretty quickly. So I don't know, it's blowing my expectations at far and wide, that's for sure.
And what's next for you? Are you got anything planned for the lockdown? Like, what's the next sort of movements for yourself?
We're actually taking a little bit of a break at the moment. Ideally, we'd be putting out a lot of stuff, but we just wanted to, I guess, probably I've got to concentrate on my family first at the moment. And it's a good opportunity, I guess, sitting back during lockdown, and not a lot has changed for us except for up here. Physically, our day's pretty similar, but it's just a reminder, I think, for me to be more present with the kids. I'd like to do some more, I guess. Part of what I guess the mantra was inspiration and information. Everyone wants to see the inspiration or the funny stuff, but I'd really like to put out more good information. So I'd love to be working with do a series with a nutritionist and other people that are in the health scene, and put it out in a way that's relatable to farmers. There's a lot of online coaches and nutritionists and that aren't farmers, that don't know what we go through in terms of the hours and the stresses. So giving information and ideas to people that they can actually accomplish and that are worthwhile. Bang for your buck is real important for me. I'm super short on time, as most farmers are. So being more specific with our information we put out to deliver bang for buck, I guess, in ways that farmers can spend minimal time but have a big impact on their health, is probably where I see it going. And I guess probably being, particularly I like going on Instagram because it's full of pretty photos and video setups and that, and made a point of being the complete opposite for a reason. So bringing that level of quality down a little bit in terms of the visual presentation, but being real. So being more real. I get really hot under the collar with the influences. People just, and I get pissed off with other people too, because they follow what looks good, and they think that's what they want, or they want to look like that or something, you know, particularly with fitness and health. They see a six-pack and pecs and big muscles, and they think, oh, fuck yeah, I want that. You know, what's he selling that I can get like that? And the same, the women are just as bad. They see a bikini model and think, oh yeah, but they don't realise how shit looking like that actually is. There's a very small percentage of people, 0.00001, that look like that fairly naturally. You know, you probably go through high school with, I think there are 1,000 boys at New Plymouth Boys High School, and there might be, by the time they hit their mid-20s or something, there might be 5 that look like that without doing much training, you know, nothing special. The rest of us have to work really hard just to keep in some sort of resemblance of good shape. And I think people got to realise that, you know, it takes, to get a six-pack is fucking hard, and it's not worth it, really. It's, unless you're one of those very few that have been given that particular genetic to get it without much hard work. Most of the people that have a six-pack fucking sacrifice a shitload, and it's just not real life, you know. It's not worth, unless it's your job, it's not worth the general population having a six-pack. It doesn't, you know, you can be physically lean and mean, but mentally quite fucked. Having a six-pack, it's not that much fun. So something I've been aware of, I guess, on Instagram and Facebook as well, is getting the message out to people that, you know, just because someone's got a six-pack, it doesn't mean they're an expert. It doesn't mean you should buy their shit, because that's their job to have a six-pack, and there's a big difference between having a job to look like a model and everyone else in the world that has to work 10 hours a day on a farm and do all that and raise kids and, you know, all that sort of thing. So getting that message out there is something that's quite important to me. So that's why we take the piss out of them a little bit. Just, yeah, being more real. Want to be more real and be someone that people can look to for some sound advice, I guess. And just keep working on both the mental and physical, and getting the message out there that you can be proactive in both senses, and that they're both intertwined. You know, it's a two-way street. When you look after your body, you know, feed it with the right things, whether that's nutrition or thoughts or what you listen to and watch, that has a profound effect on your mental state. And that's what I hate about Instagram and all the models out there, that everyone sees, you know, they're feeding themselves this visual of a six-pack or a bikini model, and buying into that, you know, that, you know, because I don't look like that, I'm not healthy, or I'm not good enough, or I'm not of value. Yeah, you know, so even I do it. I was like, fuck it. If I'd spent a couple of years in the gym and had a big fucking Arnie bloody Schwarzenegger body, I'd have probably 20,000 fucking followers. You know, I know that. You know, it's just the muscles. Everyone just seems to go for it and wants it. But I'm like, fuck it, we'll just buck the trend.
Well, look, man, there's those out there getting fit by working. I think that's honourable. And also, you know, we could also shift the way that we view like good looking to be. And like, imagine like a farm fit calendar of just dudes that, you know, I don't work out. We're doing push-ups now. That's my first time I've ever really worked out. My little brother, he's a personal trainer. He's training. He's at university in Dunedin. He's massive, but I don't. I've never worked out. It's not my thing. But you know, I'm fit and healthy. Perhaps we start demonstrating that. Kane, what do you reckon? We do a calendar.
Absolutely, mate. We'll put you on the front cover.
Yeah. What's the time? Hang on.
Yeah, no, it is. It's changing that. It's such a hard thing to do, is because even I do it. I look at, you know, the fitness fellas on Instagram or whatever platform, or, you know, in a gym or whatever. And I'm not a gym bunny, and I don't ever want to be. But you look at them and you go, fuck,
yeah.
Jesus. But, you know, if
And like
that's what somebody wants to do.
people like shaving, you know, I used to be like embarrassed because you see people. It's funny how you mention like what you see and then how subpar you feel. So because I used to see people like all like tank, and I used to be like ashamed for having. I used to shave my chest, man, and now I'm just like bugger it.
Yeah.
And then this girl I've just started seeing, she's like, she said she likes it, and I'm like, wait, what? I thought
you found a real one.
yeah.
No, they don't give a shit, really. You know, the only people that care about a six pack is the person that's got the six pack, really. In the grand scheme of things, grand scheme of life, it's not a marker of health, and it's not a marker of value as a person. So when you look in the mirror and you see a six pack, the only one that cares is yourself, really. The reflection back of you, unless you maybe like 18 and you know. You should be in that prime, I guess, where you're going to be as close to getting in that six pack as you're ever going to get. But
not quite the responsibility.
No, it's just yeah, exactly. It changes when you hit the 20s. I reckon mid-20s, it's a bit harder. But you know, it's just being real, I think, and getting that message out there that you know, it doesn't really matter what you look like. It's what's inside that is the true beauty, I guess, for a lack of a better term. And so we just want to keep it real, and keep spreading the message. And you know, the number of followers doesn't really matter to us. It's just we're just putting out what things that would have helped me, or things I've discovered and learned for the next generation. Really, that's how it all started. Was just wanting to help someone else, show them what they can achieve. And regardless, you know, I'm 100% confident that just about anyone on the planet could run a half marathon if they wanted to. You know, the only limiting factor is your mind. You know, you can train to do whatever you want, really, and the same goes with your business or relationships or whatever it is. You know, the only limiting factor is your belief. And so, just putting that message out there, and the more we spread that, I guess, the better people seem to be relating to it. So it's we don't go out there with a specific thing that we want to do. I'm just putting out shit that's helped me, and shit I think will inspire or help others. So we just keep doing that and keeping it real, basically. So, but yeah, that's about it. In terms of my grand scheme, there is no one. There's never been a big plan or anything. It's just, I think I said to someone a while ago, I just sort of jumped on a horse bareback and just letting it ride, basically. But we are taking a bit of a break at the moment. We're going to focus on the family a bit, chill out a little bit. We've just put the cows on once a day milking this week, which is fucking awesome. Can't believe I haven't done it before. So yeah, just enjoying smelling the roses, I guess. Stopping and smelling the roses for now, and we'll see what comes of it. I guess we'll pop back up one day and crack back into it, hopefully.
Awesome, man. I love it. So if people want to support you with what you're doing or join in any of your boot camps, how do they go about getting in contact with you, Kane?
Yeah, best thing is just Kane Brisco _farmfit, either on Facebook or Instagram, and the messages are always open and whatnot. Yeah, I actually really enjoy answering questions from people rather than putting out content. Yeah. It's really hard to do a video that's informative that people will actually fucking watch. You know, everyone's a scroller, right? It's fucking terrible. But so I really enjoy when people ask a question to me that's specific to them. You can actually answer it with some fucking authority, you know, when it's specific. When you're putting out information for a population of, you know, whatever followers you got, you almost can't. That's why we do content that relates to what I know and what's helped me. you see a lot of influencers put out just really general, well, they put out specific information for the general population, and that's where a lot of people get confused.
It's the same with farmers, man.
Seen that.
One size does not fit all.
Every farm's different. Yeah, exactly, and you'd see that. And I've actually been real interested in the regen ag. My brother is converting his farm up in Rotorua. I think you might actually know him, Maya Smith.
Oh yeah, man. Yep.
Yeah. Been watching his journey with interest, and again, that was him just being brave enough, I think, to say how he was farming. He wasn't enjoying, and his family wasn't enjoying, and it wasn't working. So being brave enough to actually just have a go, put your nuts on the line and have a go at something, because you just don't know until you have a go.
Yeah, man.
You can do all the budgets and paperwork and things you want, but you just don't know until you actually try it. So particularly with farming, like for us, going once a day now, never done it before, always been too scared, and I don't know what the outcome's going to be, but I'm enjoying this week. Milking early in the morning, then having the rest of the day. There's just a huge weight off my shoulders, basically, and get to spend a bit more time with the kids and enjoy the day rather than rushing around like a fucking blue-ass fly. So, being that brave. So, yeah, I'm really interested in your space and how that's looking. I know there's some, the government's now interested in, I believe, some funding, hopefully, or some research that's specific to New Zealand. So that's bloody exciting. So, watch the space, I think, because it's a real opportunity, I guess, for New Zealand to back up what we've been saying in the clean and pure way of farming. So it's really interesting that it's challenging the norms, challenging what we've done for a long time, and excited to see where that goes. So I watch his farm and what he's doing and how he's enjoying it with a lot of interest. I always, it's the first thing I fucking ask him when we're on the phone is, how's it going? Have you fucked it up yet? Or, what's the go? Want to know all the gossip. So, it's interesting. It's really interesting. And it's guys like you having the bravery to go against the grain, which is important. It's important for our country that we've got this going on in all aspects of farming, whether it's me bloody talking about shit or health and fitness, or
me
yourself,
talking about shit.
But we're all talking about shit. But,
just talking shit.
It's important that it's important that we challenge the norms, I guess. So it's bloody interesting to me what you're doing and how it's working and the results you're getting. I guess the proof is in the pudding, and as with all things, we wait and see how it will turn out, and whether the mothership will get on board with it, so to speak, and it's the way forward and that sort of thing. So interesting to see the developments, and more people are doing it, so it can't be too bad so far.
Yeah, and look, man, what's important is we just keep on rolling.
Yeah, that's it. Once you sort of believe in something and you've seen the proof in it, the people will get on board with the journey, I think, because it's, when you're passionate about something, it comes from the right place. You're not selling it to make $1 million or $1 billion like certain other things. And we probably see that in fertilizer companies and influencers on Instagram. There's a parallel there. So that would be my lasting message, actually, is before you follow an influencer, what are they selling?
Follow the money.
People forget to look at what people are actually selling. Yeah, follow the money and see where it goes, and you'd be amazed how much some of these fellas make. It's something I've absolutely know of with some of the fertilizer companies around. Is they're not always 100% transparent in everything they do. So if we can let Mother Nature do the work for us, why wouldn't we?
I like it, man. All right, Kane. Hey, man, I really appreciate your time today. And I hope you enjoy your afternoon of no milking and family time.
Absolutely, mate. Yeah, we're going to come up, go and do some exercises outside and burn off a bit of energy and have some fun. And it's bloody awesome. Thanks for having me.
I better go and do my press ups.
It's the one, don't forget.
All right, dude.
Bloody good, mate. Awesome to chat.